forward this to my computer. This way, if I ever need a resume, I could say, look, I had Dan Turrentine.
Yeah, that's right.
So, all right. So let me do my intro to get the show started. We have 37 people in. That's pretty nice. So everyone, welcome back. I hope everybody had a nice Thanksgiving holiday. It is Monday, December 1st, 2025, and this is the post show. I'm your host, Professor Kenny, joined by my co-host Alan Chiniski. Alan also does the evening post show after Mark's show at night, and Alan will put a link in the chat for that if anybody doesn't know how to join. And we'll begin. So we are very lucky and grateful today to have our old friend Dan Turrentine come on the post show for us. We've spent a long time with Dan. Dan, I actually joined the 2A like the same day you did.
Yeah,
So
Monday, September 30th. Yep.
yeah, and my whole thing was like I need to get to the bottom of this election. Like what's going to happen. And so
Yep.
how I got involved is I was a big Mark Halperin guy, and I know he had disappeared for a while, but I said, you know what? If I need to find the real answers here, let me go find Halperin, and that's what
Yep.
led me to the 2A.
That's
So
usually a very good answer.
yes, yes, 100%. So, with all the crazy stuff going on in the world today, Dan, let's begin with we'll go light. We'll start with Tennessee. So, what do you think's going to happen this week in the special election in Tennessee? It looks like the Republicans are going to hang on, but it also looks like the Dems, the Dem candidate, who isn't a very good candidate, is gonna outperform Trump. What do you think?
Yeah, it's so hard to know what the quality of the polling is in a special election like this. The fact that both parties dumped $1 million in last week says they must both see something. They're
Something.
they're not fools. They don't flush money down the toilet, and so they must both see something. I think it would be a surprise if the Democrat won the race, just because there's so much opposition research that's been dumped on her head that if you were to step back in a vacuum, you'd say it's not the type of headlines that you would want leading into an election. But the optics are what matters. And as you said, in a Trump plus 22 district, if she loses by 7, that means somebody in a plus 15 district against a terrible candidate needs to be worried.
Yeah.
And of course, if she were to win, I mean, let's just I think it would be seismic. I remember when Scott Brown won the Massachusetts Senate race to replace Ted Kennedy in 2009. I think that race was in either December of 9 or January of 10. I mean, it shocked Democrats. They basically said we have to shit or get off the pot on health care, like it's now or nothing. It people retired. It was devastating to our fundraising because the other side was saying you need to play ball with us. You need to start making amends. You need to be careful in what you're doing and who you're hiring. So we'll see. I mean, on the other hand, if the Republican wins by 15, 20 points, I think Republicans will say we don't really maybe have to do an ACA patch right now. Kind of like it's not as bad as maybe we thought, and that no doubt the White House will tell you that.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Yeah, I think if somehow the Democrat pulls it off, I don't know what the Republican Party's going to do. I mean,
Yeah.
they'll be like, "Oh my God, we can't win anything now," you know. Let me. I don't know if can you guys. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, your mic just came in. Yeah.
yeah. My
And
mic is.
hopefully people can hear me. Yeah, this is a new mic, so hopefully
Yeah.
people can hear me.
Okay, so let's turn to the National Guard situation. I've been giving that a lot of thought um, over over this you know tragedy that just happened, and I don't see a lot. Maybe I'm misinformed, but I'm not seeing a lot of pushback from Democrats on just saying, "Hey, you're the guy who put the National Guard out there, and now look what happened."
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, from what I can gather, this guy, the guy who the murderer is a incredible is suffering from incredible post-traumatic stress
Yeah.
syndrome. I mean, it sounds like his unit in Afghanistan, he was worked with the CIA, saw a lot of really bad stuff, was incredibly messed up, basically went off the grid the last year. Even his own family and friends were concerned about his well-being. They had him on suicide watch. While he shot two National Guardsmen, I don't think Democrats would say, well, or the most Democrats will say, well, gosh darn, if they weren't on the street, this would not have happened. It might have been a police officer. It might have been, you know, who knows, an attempt on a Secret Service agent, something. He clearly wanted to send a message. He clearly wanted to do something shocking. Look, I think the whole issue of the National Guard is a tough one. Still, I talked to somebody in the Chicago area who's very involved in Chicago politics. They said it's all anyone, if you knock on doors, because Chicago has some local races coming up, it's all anyone talks about is ICE, the National Guard, kind of in a negative way, what's happening in their community. I think you'll hear Democrats talking about just kind of more broadly, what are they doing? What is the long term plan? But in terms of this shooting, I don't think you're going to hear people, most of the party, connect it.
Yeah, I thought it was an interesting take that they didn't go, especially like after we
Yeah.
just recently had those six Democrats saying, you can disobey an unlawful order,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, why didn't they just double down on that? So,
Yeah.
yeah, interesting stuff. All right, so Dan, what I want to do is, if you don't mind, I want you to talk about the future plans for you guys. Is that okay? Can you talk about the
Sure.
future show and promote it, and also give us a little, what we talked about earlier?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
No, that's
and
all right.
then and then I'm going to bring people in just to ask you questions.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, this is a little bit of a family conversation here. It's fun to see everybody on the Zoom box. I recognize almost all of your faces. Um, and I know you guys have asked both in direct messages, emails, social media. I'll say in the spirit of the morning meeting in two-way, kind of with peace, love, and understanding. I'm not going to address, why we left in the circumstances. I'm sure you all can understand that, hopefully, and respect that. I will just say I love Mark. Professor Kenny, you said the same thing. Like I always listen to Mark for his insight. He's an unbelievably smart guy. I think he's one of the best journalists there is in the country, and that's been the case for years. And I don't have a bad word to say about him, and won't ever do that. As far as and look, I wish Mark well. I wish two-way well, whatever iteration the morning meeting takes. Like, I'm going to continue to watch it every day myself. And just because I think it's so insightful. What's next for me and Sean? We decided when stuff when we mutually parted ways that we wanted to continue to work together. I mean, I think I did not know, for those who don't know this, I didn't know Sean before the morning meeting. When I got on the Zoom that morning, September 30th, it was the first time I'd ever had a conversation with Sean Spicer. I obviously knew who he was, and we have a lot of mutual friends, and I had great respect for him because I had been watching the morning meeting since the summer. But we have become friends, both kind of on air and off air. We, chit chat on the phone, we text. I went down for his naval promotion ceremony and met his mother and his wife, and we just have become friends. And we wanted to continue because I think people would probably agree it's hard to find kind of chemistry. It's hard to find somebody you get along with. I think particularly in this day and age, it's hard to have somebody who's a pretty strong MAGA person and a Democrat kind of get along on air. That in most instances it's conflict. That's what the networks or the producers want. Obviously, that is not the two-way mantra. And so Sean and I wanted to continue to work together in some capacity. I think most people on here saw Rachel come on two-way in the kind of late summer.
Yep.
This is public. I can say this. Rachel then quickly heard from Politico, you have a non-compete for a few months if you want to keep getting paid. So that's why she disappeared. the greatest thing that ever happened to us, because when we left and it became public, Rachel had reached out. And so we, quickly started talking to her and just realized that our kind of values, our vision for what we wanted to try to build, and kind of how we, collaborate was all aligned. And Rachel, for those who don't know, one of the reasons she left Politico was she wanted to start a show. She wanted to start a kind of podcast, a daily show. She wrote, or she was a co-author of the playbook for years. Her vision was people want to consume all these tip sheets on video, in video format. And we obviously knew from the morning meeting that there is a hunger for kind of daily insight beyond 5 minute cable hits. If you go to Morning Joe or whatever, obviously Morning Joe is tribal, Fox and Friends is tribal. You get kind of short sound bites, but the idea of kind of both sides being equally represented, both sides hopefully trying to, like, our goal is to provide insight, not score a smackdown point and clip it and put it out on social media. And Rachel, being a journalist who wanted to start something, we kind of had this alignment. And so I think, the morning meeting is kind of based on the morning network's news divisions, as we all know. We all hear Mark say it all the time. We are kind of a slightly different version of that. We want to take the tip sheets and kind of bring it together, not always just be forward looking, but kind of at times look backwards and why it's important and kind of how it will impact the future. And then I think just, trying to figure out where the puck is going. One of the things that Sean and I heard from you all a lot, over the last year is you really liked when we would talk about, okay, this is what might come next week or later on in terms of where that puck is going and how to think about things. And we want to continue to try to provide that to everybody. And so we're really excited. We're going to launch in January. We're doing these pop-ups now because we're going to kind of basically, the lack of a better term, get batting reps together. We want to try to develop a chemistry with Rachel. We're going to hire a production team right now. It's super bare bones. We're going to have a lowercase two-way feature where we will have people on, whether it's Zoom or something else, that we can talk to you, take your questions, kind of build a community, have community feedback. We found that incredibly insightful to be able to hear from you, what's on your mind, how are you thinking about things. Dano, I want to hear when you're, pissed or happy. Like, hopefully one of these days, you're like, yeah, Democrats are doing great. So we want that ability to hear daily from everybody. It's really important to us. And so we're also going to do stuff around special events, debates, big primary nights coming up here in the new year, certainly like Michigan. That state to me is super fascinating. The conventions, obviously election night. We're going to do, and one of the reasons we chose the huddle is we can kind of say, like, when an event happens, you huddle. After a debate, the senior team huddles. Like, you get together, you figure out what is your plan, and you kind of go. So we're going to do these, kind of pop-ups throughout, politics. And we're just really excited.
I
Sorry, that was
watched the show, obviously.
long-winded.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. A couple questions. I watched the show this morning. I
Yep.
sent the link out to everybody on my mailing list.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep, and I thought Rachel was great. Yeah, I remember her being on the two-way before, so I thought
Yep.
she was great, especially with you two guys, because you and Sean have your way of going about each issue, and then she comes in with, well, here is the
Yep.
what's being reported or what the standard is of that issue, which is
Yep.
good. It kind of centers it. So I thought it
Yep.
was great. I thought she was wonderful. So here's my big question, which we all want to know. What
Yep.
is the time slot you're going to be doing starting January 5th? Because you ran over today, so I had two
Yep.
computers going. I had to get my two-way going, but I kept you
Yep.
and Rachel
Yep.
going on my other computer.
Well, look, we're thinking 8:30, but we would love people's feedback. I mean, honestly, we've heard people say, you should go, at 9. We've heard people say 8 a.m. We've heard people say, well, 8 a.m. is tough on the West Coast. Um, Look, I mean, I'm a morning person. I'm up. To me, 8 a.m. would be a great time slot. I also would say, and this probably most of you have noticed this, is for most shows like this that are on YouTube, about a fourth or a third of the audience is in real time. The remaining kind of two-thirds, three-fourths is over the course of 24 hours.
Yeah.
Lunchtime on the East Coast, which is also kind of breakfast time on the West Coast, the evening, like you'd be surprised how the numbers jump between 8 p.m. and midnight Eastern time, which obviously on the West Coast is kind of that post-work time. So we would just love your feedback. I mean, I'm seeing it even here in the chat. I think my colleagues are also kind of open to feedback. Obviously, people also have lives. Rachel has a baby. Sean has high school age kids that they've got to aren't quite driving yet, so they've got to shuttle them around. But we are open to people's feedback. We will be an hour. That is the kind of 30-40 minutes with us, so it's kind of going back and forth and then opening it up to questions and hearing people. I will also say we've had people push us about, would you go an hour and a half? If there's content, we're open to it. We also want to have the humility to say when there isn't, we don't have to go as long.
Yeah. So yeah, the obvious problem for
Yep.
us devotees, because
Yep,
we
of
are
course.
devoted to. I'll speak for myself. Of
Of
course, I'm
course.
devoted to Mark, but I'm also devoted to you and Sean. In fact, you and Sean have been very generous to me, and so I'm very, and plus I'm always interested to hear what you men have to say. So it's going to be a dilemma if you go 8:30 to 9:30.
Yeah, what do you do at 9? Yep.
Yeah. So
I
that
I
becomes a problem.
I agree with you. Just again, share your feedback as you guys all are here. I am aware that would create an awkward thing. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Yep. So just keep that in
Received.
mind. I'll email you guys.
Okay. Yep. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm gonna
No, feel
start
free
pinning
to.
people in, Dan, and have them ask questions. So we'll
Yeah, of
start off
course.
with our two-way legend from California, Dan Olivo.
Hello, Dan.
Hey Dan, great to see you on here. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, we hope you come back often. Um,
Anytime.
and thank you for always being, open to answering my questions, when we communicate outside of here. I appreciate that.
Yep.
Um, I wanted to ask you, um, if you could have your ideal Democratic candidate to run in 2028, who would it be? And if it's not the same person, who do you think has the best chance to win in 2028, considering the political climate and where you think it might be heading?
Yeah. I don't know who the 2028er would be amongst the current crowd, in that I want somebody that has like the courage of their conviction. Meaning, we've had so many candidates that have tried to kind of straddle this divide between the progressive and the moderates, and they've kind of flopped around and they've appeared pretty weak because they have looked like they're being kind of pulled by, I love Hillary Clinton, but my God, she lived in fear of Bernie Sanders and she was frustrated, and Biden just kind of clumsily outsourced stuff and then kind of act shocked when he had policies that weren't as popular. I just want, if it were AOC, okay. Like, I know she's going to own it. I know she's going to be proud. I know she's going to go full throttle forward. I don't know. I like some of what Gavin Newsom's doing. I really do. I'm not sure who he will be in 2028. Like, I get he control better than anybody, but when he's got to be like, this is my vision for the United States, I will be very curious to see, how he comes down. Same with like a Pete Buttigieg or a Josh Shapiro. Um, so I don't know who it will be. I also, and I've said this before, Dan, I'm really curious where Trump is in a year and a half, because you can already sense a little fatigue building in the general electorate. Like, obviously on our side of the aisle, fatigue, yeah, fatigue happened January 21st, on the Democratic side of the aisle. But I do wonder because if the country says like have had enough, I'm exhausted, I can't take the nonstop tweeting, I can't take the like 1 minute we're bombing Venezuela, the next minute we're not, and Epstein and like every just kind of thing. I could see an instance where the country says, I want a kind of kinder, gentler, quieter presidency. And if you're Gavin Newsom and AOC, like that's not you right now, right?
Sure.
You are a meet fire with fire, like hell and brimstone kind of attitude. And is somebody like a Josh Shapiro suddenly popular because he is a moderate and he is proud, of his Jewish ancestry, and he's not looking to like he's looking to build bridges versus kind of incinerate them. Whether he could pull it off or not, I don't know. So I don't know.
And you
Sorry,
also
that's
see somebody just coming out of the
yeah,
blue. Yeah, okay.
sure, sure.
Thanks, Dan.
Yeah,
Thanks,
I don't
Dan.
sub I don't subscribe to the theory that you know the that you subs that you know the aircraft carrier already. I know like Mark and I kind of would go back and forth about this, like even off air, about do you have to be that battleship now already? I don't think you do yet.
Yeah. I tell you, I've been doing a little deep diving into Josh Shapiro.
Yep.
I find him very formidable.
Yep.
I think he's very formidable. So it's just being Jewish. I don't know if that how that will play into the
Of
role,
course.
with MAGA and everything on the right. Okay, we're gonna bring
Oh,
in
forget MAGA. How about our own party?
Yeah,
Look at the story in the New York Times today. I mean,
I
yeah, Ben
know.
Rhodes.
Yeah,
Yep.
Ben Rhodes,
I
100%.
was gonna ask
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
About Shapiro.
yeah, that's what we just said. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, do you think it was wise of it, like it was a wise move of his to sort of bypass being the VP nominee and let Walz step into that mess?
So I am probably like all of you awaiting Mark Halpern's next book because it sounds like he did not want it. I'm skeptical. I
Yeah.
think if asked, would he really have said no? Maybe. Uh, I think he is a really legit candidate. The issue that I in my head have with Shapiro is when the opposition research started dropping on him in that 2 week window about the chief of staff or the senior employee, the Republican who was accused of, I think it was sexual harassment, and the state money was used in settlements, and about his relations, I think it was with some labor unions. He did not seem to be able to push back on that. And this was in his hometown newspapers where you would think relations are, pretty good. And if they're not good, like, the editors, like, in other words, you should be able to kind of put fires out or at least fight fire with fire. He seemed to just take it. And that was jarring to a lot of people that if you can't navigate that fist fight, how the hell are you going to take on Donald Trump and JD Vance and, Fox and the whole Republican media machine? And so Shapiro is going to have to show that. I mean, if you're going to take out AOC and Gavin Newsom, forget the general. You just have to get there first. I haven't seen that political dexterity and kind of cutthroat nature that I think it ultimately takes if you're going to win.
Yeah. Okay, so let's bring in Haley, our
I was
other
just going to
two-way
say,
legend.
Hello,
speaking of the
Haley.
Jews, speaking of the Jews, it's a great segue.
Yeah.
Just wanted to say, Dan, thank you for coming, and you have a forever fan in me.
Oh,
So
thank
I'll
you,
follow
Haley.
you wherever you go, no matter what time it is. Just for everyone to understand, you can watch things later also.
Yeah,
Like,
of
and
course. Yep.
that's always gonna be one of my daily podcasts entered. So love you forever. And I did want to ask what you thought of how the transition team like of Zoran is going. Like the people that
Oh,
he's picked, some of the things that he like has been coming
yeah.
out lately. Like how do you think it's going? Do you think that there's a chance for the 50% who didn't vote for him, like to get on the train, or do you think that he's making some really bad choices? Like, how do you think it's going just overall?
Can I answer just like yes to all the above? I don't. Haley, it's a great question because keeping what's her name, Jessica Tisch as police commissioner garnered so much headlines and a collective sigh of relief amongst, I'll put myself in this camp, the 50% that did not vote
Me
for,
too.
yes, Mandani. It was like, phew, right? This could have been a lot worse. Public safety is kind of number one. I want the trash picked up every week as well. But like, if I had to choose trash or safety, I would take safety. I think some of these hires, as you would expect, are cringe inducing. I mean, just their backgrounds, things they've said, the way that and when I say things they've said, I'm not talking about when they were in high school. I'm talking about like 6 months ago. I think that I continue to watch Kathy Hochul because what worries me in terms of Mandani is Hochul is a person without a party right now, meaning the Democratic base looks at her and says, I don't trust you. You're a moderate. You're from upstate. The moderates look at her and said, you endorse Mandani. You're really a closet progressive. And I think she's got to pick a lane to try to build a base to go into her reelection. And usually in that instance, you might say, look, I'm going to go with the base because moderates will be so offended by Trump and, whatever, they'll ultimately hold their nose and vote with me, whereas the base may just not vote. And so if she were to say to Mandani, I'm going to play ball with you, I may not raise your taxes 3%, but it'll be 2%. I may not, allow total free busing, but it's going to be 50 cents. Or, he could start suddenly doing a lot of stuff that would give him some power. On the other hand, she may say, forget it. And I don't know how he handles that. Like, what does he do if he meets resistance that first 6 months and he can't get stuff done? And the headlines are incompetency and frustration. And he's 33 years old. Does he say, okay, long game, deep breath, let's keep working at this? Does he? I don't know. Don't know. But boy,
some
is
of
it
the
going to be
hires,
interesting.
though. Yeah, some of those hires are very, very, very worrying. Like,
correct.
Oh,
I mean,
man, here we go.
As a Jewish person, some of the statements, some of these people. I mean, I'm Catholic, but I have a lot of Jewish friends, and
yeah,
your jaw drops. You see them, and you're like, whoa,
Yep.
okay.
I think one of the reasons why Tish accepted to stay on is because she wants to protect her police force from Tommy. I think that's one of my thoughts. So
yeah. Well, and I also think if she left, I have heard she is ambitious, and if she left and was sitting on the sidelines commenting on perceived failures, you could see a scenario where she is strengthened as a candidate very quickly and he is struggling. So I think it's like keep your enemies, what is it? Keep your friends close, your enemies closer a little bit.
Yep. 100%. Okay. Thanks, Haley. We're going to bring in Sharon. Sharon is our normal, like, question number 2 or 3 person we have on our post show. Hi, Sharon.
Hey, thanks for doing this. And Dan, thanks for coming on.
Of course.
And whatever time you guys do, if I can't watch it live, I will be listening while I'm doing my farm chores.
Oh, thank you so much.
For me, the phone's in the pocket, the ear pod is in, and I just tool away with the horses listening to you guys. So I will be one of the marks of viewers. It just may be not live. But anyways,
that's okay.
My question, can you explain, and this might be kind of rudimentary, but you always hear the term base, the base. I thought that the base for either party would be the people that vote in all the primaries and vote in all the generals and, off elections. But now it's starting to sound like on both sides, the base is referred to as the crazies. Has that changed? I mean, well, they talk about, and it's not just the left, it's not just the Democrats, it's also the Republicans. Like, I might have voted for Trump, but I'm not MAGA. Like, I'm not in a cult.
Yeah.
So who are these who are people trying to, I guess, appeal to if it's not your voter that has a voting record that I vote for everything?
It's a really good question. I guess the difference is there are like people who vote in every election, primary, every general. As you say, like you're not MAGA per se, but you voted for Trump, right? So to some extent,
Yeah.
you are part of the base. Then there are the people that will write money and volunteer and go on social media and kind of be like the tip of the spear. That they're very, very aggressive. And parties need that. You need the people who through thick and thin are going to show up and raise their hand and really lend a shoulder to the cause. It all builds on top of itself. And so I think just like a house needs a strong foundation, you need a strong foundation politically if you're going to kind of weather storms and you're going to, be able to enact legislation. So I think the reason you hear so much talk these days about the base is that it is a 50-50 country. And any slippage in your base can cost you the election. And Trump is the ultimate example. He barely won in 16 because the base turned out super high and he peeled off independents and moderates. He barely lost in 20 because of like a 2% fraction of his base didn't show up. And he lost like 3% of independents, right? So it was just enough to go from a 1% victory in a state to a 0.5% defeat. And then obviously in 24, even though it felt seismic because the margins were like 2%, it was still super small. So you have this like, we can't afford to lose any ounce of our intense supporters. But at the same time, you can't afford to lose independence. So who are these people? It's the truest of true, I guess.
I mean, so isn't that going to be hard though for both parties? I mean, Trump's off the ballot,
Yeah,
but like when I hear everybody talking about the MAGA base, I also think Trump was able to get people to vote for him that never vote.
correct.
Like, and
Expanded the
so
base. Yep.
you're appealing to a group of people that may or may not vote. The same thing with the Democrats. I still remember Hillary losing because the Bernie bros got
Yep.
butthurt and stayed home. So you're appealing to these people that may or may not support you if they don't get their way.
It's such a good point. I mean, think about why was Obama's victory in 08 so seismic and historic? Because he got all these new people to come out to vote. Same thing with Donald Trump, right? He's realigning the country, Trump, where people who were Democrats are becoming solidly Trump. People who hadn't voted in either ever or in ages said, I'm for this guy, right? Not I'm against the other party per se, but I am for that person. So there are multiple ways to skin a cat politically. And some candidates, they can't expand the base. They can't bring in new people. Others say, yeah, I can do that. Like, I'll say this. I think AOC would bring in new people. Now, she may turn people off too, but
Yeah,
I think she would bring in new people. I really do.
Well, Dan, I hope my YouTube algorithm keeps putting anything you do on my feed
Thank you.
because it's like listening to family. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much. You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Sharon. See you tomorrow. And let's bring in my good friend from New York City, Jack Yakov. What's up?
Hi, good morning, Dan. Thank you for coming to the
Hello,
show.
Jack.
Hi, how are you? First, can I ask you a favor? Could you get a picture of your bookshelf so that we could
Yeah.
see your books so I could because I'm into books.
Yeah,
And
I'll take a picture and email it to Professor Kenny. He can put it out.
awesome. And then would you ever consider running for public office in New York?
Yeah, it's funny. I have always wanted to run for office since I was a kid. I just always thought it was a noble cause and exciting. And when I got into law, when I became a chief of staff on Capitol Hill and lobbying and kind of saw the inner workings of government, I lost a little bit of desire to get into it. I think it has to be the right time in your life. And it is just not it's not right now. We have, children who are teenagers who are going through all the, things that change when you're a teenager. They're looking at college. They're beginning to deal with girls and that kind of stuff. My wife is super busy. Um, and if both of us were kind of gone a lot, and it would just be very hard on our family. So perhaps when the kids are all gone and my wife is in a, settled place, that I would think about it. But man, you're putting yourself out there. When you do that, I would have to have a talk with our kids. Um, you know, it is a very intense thing, and you have to really want it, and you have to be willing to put up with a lot, not just you, but your family reading stuff about you. Not that I have skeletons in my closet per se, but people say a lot of stuff, and you gotta be willing to grind through it. So maybe someday, but not for a while.
I know a few Republicans in New York that would be more than happy to support your campaign
Oh,
and
thank
would
you.
vote for you. But
Thank you.
my
Thank you.
question, thank you. So my question is, I over the weekend I finished reading Abby Phillips's book about Jesse Jackson, and specifically on his two campaigns in an '84 and an '88 campaign, and it dawned
Yep.
on me that he was the original populist candidate in America. He had a bunch of white farmers, which was his big base. And if he would have ran in the age of social media, he would have won. He almost won in '88.
Yep.
So my question to you is, Barack Obama's legacy in a way is Donald Trump, and the
Agreed.
Republicans taking over the Congress in the second midterms of his presidency. What do you think the Republicans and Donald Trump have to do going forward now that their legacy will not be AOC? Because I could see AOC winning the election in a heartbeat, just like Jesse Jackson came within this close of winning the election in '88.
Yeah. I think the best way to cement your legacy is to have great accomplishments. I mean, I just think about Ronald Reagan. I mean, why did we, George H.W. Bush was kind of considered the third term of Reagan. People were generally happy with the way things were in the country. They felt like the economy was good. I mean, we had Black Friday and the kind of crash had somewhat begun, but like people still felt very positive. They felt like on the world stage, America was in a better place than it was in 1979 and 1980. If you make people feel good, like their lives are better, it's been improved, I think then it makes sense to say to the electorate, let's continue what is going well. This was Bill Clinton's thing with Al Gore, right? Why are you running away from me? I'm at 60% approval and Americans are saying life is pretty good. Yeah, I had an issue with an intern, but like focus on the big picture, right? And Gore kind of just struggled, partly because he had Ralph Nader nipping at his heels a little bit. But I think the question for Trump is there's two parts to Trump. There's the substance and the style. He's struggling with substance right now. And his style, boy, it's tough to maintain that. I mean, there's only one Trump. I always say this, again, this is a smaller setting, and I don't say this as an insult. He's an authentic asshole. I mean, he just is. He is a brawler. He's a fighter. I grew up in the 80s outside New York City where he was on the local, Channel 11 news every night for, real estate and his dating life and like whatever. And he's a brawler. I mean, so I say that because it comes natural to him to fight, to insult, to taunt, to boast, to like, it is the same guy today as it was 40 years ago. I don't know what the country says. I want that style of leadership from every elected official the next 20 years. And so if the country is tired of him, then it's hard for, JD Vance will have to separate. And that is hard to do from Donald Trump.
Very hard. Very hard to come
Thank you.
after that guy. Dan,
Sure.
this is what I'll say about you as a political candidate.
Uh-oh.
You seem like a very nice guy. So if you need a Lee Atwater to back you up, I'm your Lee Atwater, my friend. I got your
Thank you,
back.
sir. And you're yes, and you've got a legal background. I like it. I like it. Look, if I ever ran for office, you got to be who you are.
Yes.
And I like to think of myself as being a pretty decent person, who was raised to always be honest and not insult people. My father, at the end of his life, was the general counsel for the World Special Olympics because he thought it was a great cause and he really wanted to help people. So I would have trouble running as a insulting, machine who's always, I, and punching you in the mouth. That would not be how I would want to do it.
Yeah.
So.
No, and we need authenticity. That's the biggest problem
Yep.
we have in politics. I'm bringing in our good friend Shamsul from Malaysia. What's up, Sam?
Hello.
Hey.
Hi, Dan. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good.
Are you happy with your Florida Gators hire, by the way? I know
That's the best we can get.
Yeah, okay.
It seems.
Okay.
It seems. I don't know. Maybe we dodge a bullet with Lane Kiffin, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I actually like Lane Kiffin. I think he's a good coach.
I like his offense, but I don't know. Maybe we need to bring Urban Meyer back.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Anyway, good to see you. I've always enjoyed your conversations on two-way, Dan.
Thank you.
It's so refreshing. I have this that actually from this side of the world, I really want to see the American economy succeed very, very well, because I think that when America does very well, the rest of the world does well too.
Yep.
That's one. The second part is also, I think American military supremacy keeps the world safe.
Yep.
It has been that way, and actually if you ask me, the last, I was too young for Reagan, but I thought that Bill Clinton was brilliant. I really don't care whatever he did in the Oval Office on his own time, so to speak.
Yeah.
I really don't, but Clinton is really up there as far as I'm concerned, but unfortunately his policies were taken too far out for the to Wall Street, and it hollowed out manufacturing in America, and you've basically within those decades, and Obama was a true disappointment in my opinion. I mean, when he came to the scene, I was pretty excited. Then I was like, oh, he bailed out Wall Street and just left Main Street to die. Nobody got punished. And then you've got, and you know what I see actually with Trump? He may have sharp elbows, but as a businessman and as somebody who built his business and built it to the corporate sector, I absolutely understand all the things that he's doing. And I think he's got an excellent financial team. I think he needs the Fed to figure it out, to be on board with what he's trying to do. And if you look at what happened when he came down to Asia, and even if you look at in the Middle East, that's what the world needed, that kind of leadership. He was very statesmanlike. He was not that sharp elbow guy, that you see tweeting, which I wish he would do that more often, right? So here's the thing. I mean, I'm very worried that he can't implement this agenda because the Chinese are moving far ahead and they can withstand the pain because
Yep.
they're a dictatorship. They can withstand the pain. I wish Trump had told the American people, look, I'm going to need 16 to 18 months to get my policy to actually what do you call, really see it that everybody will get to feel the benefit of it, because that's normally what happens in true economics, what he's doing, right? But but that's not his style. Okay, so here's what I worry. I truly worry that actually comes another a Democrat that goes back to the Obama and the Biden years that are not doing the structural changes that need to be done to turn around the economy and get back to where America needs to be. That's my, and I don't see anyone on the Democrat side right now that has the shall I say the substance. I can't find it, Dan. I really can't find it.
Well,
Am
I
I
think,
wrong?
well, no, in that the party has not had a macro forward looking agenda now for years, because in the era of Trump, it has mostly been reactionary in trying to defend what has been built, right? So the ACA, the social safety net, the Roe versus Wade, kind of, there was this feeling that Trump was kind of assaulting all this progress that the party had made over 50 years. You make the point, and I think you're right, that I think Bill Clinton understood the working class better than anyone. He was a boy from, rural Arkansas. But the policies of deregulation of, China into the World Trade Organization, NAFTA, while I think well intentioned, it's pretty clear 30 years later that the hollowing out of the industrial base of manufacturing in a lot of instances, the kind of 35-40% of the country that was left behind professionally by globalization is frustrated, and they're whether it's providing help or a springboard or however you want to phrase this to help to fix this. Trump tapped into something. Now, I think his remedy of just tariffs across the board is insane, and I think in the long run, even he recognizes it, which is why he's creating loopholes left and right. And I think ultimately this stuff's going to have to come down. But the flip side is, what on earth do Democrats want to do? Because it's just like on healthcare. It's a total winner for us in the short run. But at some point, you got to fix a system that's breaking again. You just do. And if we argue status quo, which is kind of what we've argued the last 10 years, we may win an election, but we'll be tossed out very quickly because people don't want the status quo, right? What is the new world? What is the 21st century? AI, all of these, is college worth it now? I mean, increasingly people feel like it's not. What do we propose to make your life better?
Well,
Yeah.
then I want
don't
to add
know.
another thing. I mean, the rest of the world don't play with the same fair rule as America.
Yep.
The world is not a free market. It just is not. And the thing is, I mean, when you negotiate, you gotta negotiate somewhere. You gotta start up high and then you work your way down and
Yep.
come to and if you just look at, I'm just looking at just Southeast Asia alone, what he has done, right? At the end of the day, if you look at what's happening here, everybody is rallying around the American economy now, because China is in trouble to a certain extent. China is in trouble right now, and they are now exporting their overcapacity outside their borders, right? So they are effectively also in the process of destroying the regional producers in our countries around the region, right? So these are the things that actually I think American voters and American policymakers doesn't seem to have a grasp of what's really happening. Everybody is screwing your ass. And you
Well,
just
You say everyone's screwing the United States?
Yes.
But you just said China's screwing them because they're exporting out their overcapacity.
Yeah,
So,
but whilst they're doing that, so is everybody else too,
well, the world's got its own.
right?
I mean, look, all politics is local. It is for everybody. And I
Yeah.
think it is always a question of short term versus long term. And unfortunately, as you started off this by saying it, Trump did not run on, we're going to have a few really tough few years. And I'm going to ask you to pay higher prices. And I'm going to ask you to deal with all this turmoil to get to this better place, because he just can't bring himself to talk like that. Right. It is the golden age. It is like, we're winning. Everything is great. You know, what did he float? I know it was somewhat in jest, but like, we'll eliminate the income tax because the tariff revenue is so great, which of course is not true at all. So it's hard because you ask real lives of real people to deal with it. I mean, he's not going to tell the U.S. farmers deal with it. He's trying to find subsidies to backdoor pay them off. But then what about every other industry?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so it's hard. It's hard, but I applaud him for trying.
Yeah.
All
Thanks,
right.
Sam.
I mean, I've been.
Sorry, Sam. Sorry, I muted you. All right, so listen, we got a lot of hands raised, so this is what I'm going to do. Rapid fire, okay?
Okay.
You got like 45 seconds to say your piece, and Dan will respond, and then we move on, okay? Because we got a lot of hands raised. We're already an hour into the show. I really appreciate everybody, and of course, we appreciate Dan for taking the time. So, first up, rapid fire, our good friend Dean from Ohio.
I understand we got another 6 hours with you, Dan. So button up.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
No, listen. I wanted to. It's been a treat to watch you grow in the show and see you hold your own with Sean Spicer, a man that can hold the floor like no other. So it's good to see that. I'm interested in a couple of things. One, how's your knee doing? How's your from your injury at the New York City Marathon? And two, I'm looking for, and then I'll shut up. I'm looking for, are we closer or further away than the majority of the middle getting together, that camaraderie, have a drink, make some backroom deals, and actually get stuff done in the middle, a la Joe Manchin on his boat?
Yep. The knee, thank you for asking, is getting better. I actually ran last week for the first time in 3 weeks and pain-free. So thank you. Mentally, that felt very good. I think we're getting closer to the kind of silent middle being appealed to. I think there is, again, some fatigue already setting in.
Yep. I'm going to bring in Chris.
Hello, Chris. Chris from
Dan.
You in Atlanta, Chris?
Yeah, I am. Hey, Kenny.
Yes, sir.
Just because some of us don't know when to shut up, the rest of us shouldn't be relegated to rapid fire. We'll talk about that later.
Listen, you don't run my show. I run my show. Okay, my friend. Okay.
By the way, Chris, I went to the Yale Harvard game last weekend. Condolences to the Crimson. Ouch.
Yeah. Luckily, I don't have a lot of investment in Harvard football. I'm an SEC guy because I'm from the South. I know real football and I see it.
There you go.
No, and that really wasn't a shot at you, Kenny. Anyway, and the person who took it knows who it was getting it. I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Ashley Etienne this morning. What do you think Trump's behavior since getting elected has done to his supposed inroads on Black and brown voters?
So the data is pretty clear that he is struggling and losing support right now with both Latino, Black and brown voters. The question, Chris, is, are they coming back to Democrats, or are they free agents who, if Trump were to be able to start turning things around, would snap back to him? There is clearly in New Jersey and Virginia, they turned out affirmatively for the Democrat. So I think in these primaries, I'm going to be very curious what we see, because part of the GOP plan to keep the House in Texas is that Latino vote remains with them. And if it doesn't, they have a huge problem. Huge.
Big time.
And Chris, Black men in urban centers, if they flee, it's a huge problem.
No, you're absolutely right. And I think there was some misogyny with the black men last time too, and the Democrats won't be dumb enough to run a woman again.
I'm not gonna comment on that,
No
but
comment.
okay.
All right, we're gonna move on to Evan. Thanks, Chris.
Hello, Evan.
Hey, good morning. So just quickly, Lily and I are always fascinated with your books. This is my main question, but it's my secondary one. 3 favorite books that you have. And the second one is in terms of political calculus. So if there is a centrist on either side, which extreme of either of their respective bases is more likely to hold their nose and vote for it?
Oh, so I'll go reverse order. The base most likely to hold their nose, I think this time would be the Democrats, because when you're out of power, you're much more tolerant of holding your nose than when you've had the power and you're frustrated and you just, so I'll say that out of power. Favorite books for different reasons. I think George Stephanopoulos's book, All Too Human, was impactful on me as a teenager about just what life was like. I think I love Theodore Rex by Edmund Morris. I'm a huge Teddy Roosevelt fan for just how he took
Great
stuff
book.
on. And actually, it's not, where is it? Bodyguard of Lies, about the which is about the way that the Allies kind of misdirected, so the Germans didn't discover that they had hacked into the Enigma machine and were able to start reading their codes. I find just a super fascinating book about all the things we went through and the trade-offs that the Brits made of when they knew about bombings and people were going to die, but they could not let the Germans, any hint that they had cracked into this. Those would be 3 books for kind of 3 different reasons.
Thank you. I yield my remaining time. Take care. Good luck.
Thanks,
you. Evan.
Good
And
luck.
Let's get Josh in.
Hey, good to see you, Dan. I don't know
Hey, Josh.
I don't know what's more of a surprise, logging on and seeing your face, or Professor Kinney calling on Dean from Ohio and seeing his face. Dan, don't run for office.
Thank you.
It's just don't run for office. Don't do that to yourself. You're too good of a person to do that, and you're too intellectually honest to really dig down into the political game as opposed to the the policy game.
Yep.
So that said, your show with Sean.
Yep.
Are you going to be more focused on the policies or on the team sports politics?
Probably more the politics, but where policy is of importance, we'll focus on. Look, I think the thing that we found, even with the morning meeting, is when you go into the policy for too long, people kind of don't want to hear it because you've conditioned the audience to a conversation about politics, right? So people are tuning in for the politics. There are shows that are policy focused shows, or really they're more podcasts on that front. So I think we'll touch on policy, but probably focus more on the politics. And don't hold me to that. I have not run that by Sean and Rachel. That is a knee-jerk first blush reaction.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Josh. Let's bring in Doug Carey.
Hello, Doug.
Doug's come. By the way,
Dan, how are you?
Doug, before you speak, Dan, I don't know if you're coming, but we have that holiday party December 13th at Sweet Linda's. Yes. That's a Saturday. Doug is coming up. Where are you in Naples right now, Doug?
Naples, yep.
Yeah, Doug's coming up to that party, just to show you. We got like 30 people.
What time on the 13th?
It's 7 p.m.
How late are you guys going to go?
Oh, we'll be there for a while, I'm sure.
So I have to take my wife to Handel's Messiah with the New York Philharmonic. She's not listening, so let me revise that. We are going.
Yeah,
she loves that. We are going together, and it's at 7:00 over at Lincoln Center. So depending on when that ends, we can both stop by. You guys can meet my wife.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Yeah,
she's definitely the better half.
We'll be there.
Yes.
We'll be there then. We'll definitely.
Okay.
That'd be fantastic. Messiah's great. Hey, so welcome. Thanks for joining us. A quick question. Most of the country is not far left, far right. I'm a
Yeah.
center right guy. I view you more as a center left guy.
Yep.
You know, that's what more than half the country is. I'm a firm believer that ranked choice voting would help us get more to the center. I know Sean was always adamantly against that. I'm not sure why he was, but I think that's the way. Or the California system and not have nonpartisan primaries, just everybody run.
Yeah.
And what do you think of that, Dan? Are you against it like Sean is?
Well, so there are two different things there. On the jungle primaries, I actually agree with you. I think in California, what you're seeing is more moderates be having a chance to get to win the seat, because when the other parties, like on the Democratic side, usually the most progressive will win, will be one of the two. But then if there is the other one, when you get to the general election, who's going to appeal to Republicans, who's going to appeal to independents, you often need to kind of put that coalition together. And so you can get more moderate candidates. Rank voting, to me, I've never liked, because, like, look at what happened in New York. All the other progressive teamed up to say, do not second choice to Andrew Cuomo. Go just kind of do it in the family, so to speak, and prevent him from finding a way to get over the finish line. I mean, look, I think whatever you do, just do it everywhere. Don't have certain states have it and other states don't. Like, I just feel like, let the best candidate get the most votes. If it's
So what's
30%,
the solution then? I think Trump would not have won in 2016. There's more votes against Trump in the primary. There are more
correct.
votes against him than with him. And people's first choice. I mean, I voted for Marco Rubio. My second choice, might have been I don't remember who was running Carly
Jeb
Fiorina,
Bush.
but it
Yeah.
wouldn't have been, but Jeb Bush, but definitely would not have been Donald Trump.
Well, but I mean, look, but play that out, Doug. I think Trump's election is the best thing that's ever happened. You can disagree with Trump, but he's shaken the system up.
Yeah.
He's kind of forced people to stop. We were in such hard lanes since Reagan, and it was in the Reagan sandbox, and he has created a new sandbox. And our party is having to really do soul searching and figure out an agenda and, like, what is our coalition? And Republicans are having to square stuff. I actually think that churn is great. I really do, even if I don't agree with a lot of what Trump does. But you're right. We would not have had Trump if there were ranked voting.
Yep.
We
Yeah,
would
I think
not.
for me, it's just the personal insults. I just, I brought up as like my mother would say, "Wash your mouth out with soap."
Yeah,
But
same
it's
here.
the word he does, and don't want
Yep.
that in the present. Anyway, thank you so
Yep.
much for the
Thanks,
time.
Doug. Talk to you.
I'm not
Luke
the
from
only one.
China is in.
Hey Dan, how are you doing?
Good, Luke. How you doing?
Beijing is always questionable.
It's always sunny in Beijing. Okay.
Always smoggy in Beijing.
Yes,
You just don't
yes.
know which way. Two quick questions. One, is the Democrats going to get out of that budget issue that they're having? I saw that they're having some real questionable loan issues. And the second one is, do you think that the Democrats are starting to figure out that the wokeism is just not going to cut it for the future? Because I feel like I've been watching it since 2015, and it's just, I think it's about to run its course, and a lot of the younger people are just not into it anymore.
Yeah, totally agree on DEI. I think the party does know that. Canary in the coal mine, the most progressive candidates don't talk about it much anymore. They talk about affordability and Epstein, but, like, you don't hear them talking about DEI, so that should tell you much. Two, the DNC will figure it out. Yes, they took a loan out. The other committees are doing really well. The DNC will get its act together.
Okay, good luck, Dan.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Luke. And we'll bring in Kelly. Hey, Kelly. Kelly,
Hey,
you back
Dan.
from Florida? You back up in Buffalo?
I am. Came back to snow.
Yeah.
So that's fun. Hey Dan, thanks for giving us your time. So have you been following or have you seen much about what's going on in Minnesota?
Yeah.
And all of the fraud coming out? I just
Crazy.
it's wild. It's insane. And they haven't even cracked it all. But a couple of quick questions. One, what does that look like for Tim Walz? Like, does he have any hope for a continued future? And two, given that some of this clearly, like, they knew it was going on, they were already charging people and going after them during the election. How did this not blow up in national news while he was running for VP?
Great set of questions. It should be disqualifying to Tim Walz.
Yeah.
It it to me, what's so maddening is it's every stereotype of the Democratic Party. It's runaway spending. It is fraud that it sounds like if the New York Times is correct, and again, the New York Times, that story alone, the fact that it ran in there was pretty remarkable because usually it's not a blue on blue attack.
Yeah.
That they knew about it and people in emails were saying, well, it's basically the Somali community threatened politically to withhold support and people backed off. That's horrific. I mean, especially talking about hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars for children. I think it was for the hungry people who were, I mean,
everything, feeding the poor,
yeah.
autism services, housing.
And then, of course, the stereotype is the article references of government corruption in Somalia is a fairly accepted, practice, and people are pretty conditioned for it. Boy, Tim Walz is going to have to answer for this, and he should. Whoever the governor is in that circumstance should be saying completely WTF.
Yeah, and then going after whistleblowers, retaliating.
Oh my God, it's unbelievable because it sounds like they caught this pretty early, but just it was allowed to go on because they were an important voting bloc in Minneapolis.
Yeah,
amazing.
Makes you think what was Kamala thinking, putting him on the ticket,
Oh my God. Yep.
Let's bring in Andrew. Hi, Andrew. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, Professor. Thank you. Dan, thanks for doing this.
Sure.
I'll be quick. You mentioned JD Vance distancing himself from Trump if he were to run in 2028. I'm wondering, from your perspective, who do you feel like is the ideal candidate for the Democrats to go up against? And I realize that may depend on who the ultimate candidate for the Democrats is, but who do you think is like the weakest one from that group?
Well, first off, let me preface this. If you had asked me this in April of 2016, I would have said Donald Trump would be the weakest candidate, and look how that worked out, right? So, I mean, it's so hard to predict something like that because you don't know what the country is going to want in a couple years. Look, right now, if the election were today, healthcare, maybe like immigration and foreign policy might be your like 3 topics, right? I mean, affordability, healthcare. I don't know in 2 years what Americans are going to be saying is the most important set of issues to them. So who has an authentic voice on those issues and can speak to them? And then stylistically, what do people want? I could put a scenario together where JD Vance is an incredibly formidable candidate. I could put together a scenario where JD Vance has no chance.
Yeah, I feel like Vance is sort of seen as the heir apparent right now. And I
totally.
kind of thought you even sort of, insinuated that just by your remark. But I don't think he's as strong as people think he might be. I don't know.
I don't know.
Like, that's a good way to put it. If it were today, like you got Vance, you got Rubio, you even got DeSantis sitting out in this.
I mean, look, I absolutely love Mark Halperin and think he's one of the smartest people I know. He thinks JD Vance is like a battleship that is almost unstoppable. And I give great credence to what Mark thinks.
Yeah.
On that
makes sense. Hey, and then for you, what about DNC chair?
No. Watch my old boss, though, Terry McAuliffe. It's possible he comes back.
Yeah, but why not you?
Because I'm not moving to DC. No way.
He's too smart
really?
for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, fair enough.
Thanks,
I like
Andrew.
my wife.
I'm bringing in our good friend Peter Choth.
Hello, Peter.
Hi. It's been great getting to chat with you on all the various two-way shows. I've really enjoyed it. I'll have to check in on you guys on the new program. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
As far as questions go, like assuming, I mean, I would say probably as of right now, it's more likely than not that Democrats regain the House in 2026.
Yeah.
But do you see that as almost being counterproductive in a certain sense for 2028 and beyond, because it will give Trump and Vance for the second half of their term kind of a foil, so to speak. Like, I'm presuming there'll be another impeachment
totally
that won't go anywhere, right? Like last time. It sort of gives, and that's sort of been what happens, like President's party loses in the midterms, and then the opposing party then becomes kind of like the foil that they didn't have those first 2 years when they had a trifecta. How do you see that playing out?
I think it's a really smart point. I think I will be very curious if Democrats win the House, if Hakeem Jeffries can control the worst impulses, in my opinion, the worst impulses of the caucus, because that would, go to 2006. I said this on the Huddle this morning. Nancy Pelosi had a caucus that wanted to cut the funding off for the Iraq War and basically impeach George W. Bush. And she said, "We are not doing that. We're not going to talk about it in public anymore." Like Jack Murtha from the Pittsburgh area is going to be our spokesperson on all things Iraq, because he's a 30-year combat vet out of Vietnam. And everyone else, if you open your mouth, I will make you pay. I don't sense Hakeem Jeffries has that control. And if not, and the caucus is its worst instincts, you're right. JD Vance would love to say, we cannot let those crazies back into office. They'll open the border. He'll say all stuff that I don't think we would do, but boy, crazy is crazy. So I'd rather have Trump's crazy front and center, not our crazy.
Yeah, when I think it also the wild card is going to be I think you were sort of alluded to this, like what kind of freshman comes in the next, like, is it going to be people like Kat Abu Ghazaleh and that sort of thing? Because if it is, I highly doubt that Jeffries is going to be able to control them the way that.
Well, look, one of the things that certain parts of the caucus is already talking about is cutting off money for ICE to cut the funding from these enforcements. I mean, you can imagine the attacks we'd get. I mean, are we going to reopen the border? So that's where you need serious people who say, we're not cutting the funding for ICE. We can talk about a different way ICE should behave, but we're not cutting funding for ICE.
Yeah, I think that
crazy.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But I will be, it's been great. It's, I've always appreciated, you guys letting regular folks like us come on and chat with you. And
we learn from you, not the other way around.
And one of these days, I'll set foot in the city where I was born again, and maybe we can cross paths at some time.
Would be great.
I'll meet you there too, Pete, of course.
Sounds good.
Okay, thanks. All right, Ryan, you want to come in?
By the way, I can do these last two, and then I do need to get off here.
Yeah, I got Andres.
I'd love to stay all day, but I can't.
I got Andres and Vince, and after Ryan, if you don't mind, and then we're done. We'll be done. Okay, good.
Hey guys, Dan,
such
a pleasure to have you on the call with us today, and we definitely in lieu of Professor Kenny throwing the invite out, I would love to throw the invite out again. Please come on again with us.
Anytime.
I had a question about immigration. I just saw a story in the past week about a college student who came into the country from Honduras, and he apparently was pulled out of line at the airport.
Going home.
At what point are Democrats going to start pointing these stories out to bring light, quite frankly, to what's going on? These are not the worst among the immigrants that have come into the country. We're talking about a college student trying to visit her parents. Just would love. There.
So I think you are seeing that story in particular called out. It was the lead on Morning Joe today. Congress is back in town this afternoon. I am no doubt you're going to hear people talking about this. I've always said it. This is the issue where I think Democrats have the winning hand. When it was about bad hombres and closing the southern border, Trump had the upper hand, and Trump is getting credit for that, even still in polls today. When it is, should we deport people like you're talking about? The person who came, I think the story is at age 6. Her parents came, has been in school, is now in college, and was simply going home. Americans are very uncomfortable with that because every community has those examples. I go to the story of the Missouri waitress in rural Missouri, Ruby Red District, the woman who was who would greet you at the local diner every day, had been there for 20 some odd years. They went to deport her. And the community in Ruby Red, Missouri said, wait a second, not her. Like, she's part of our community. And you look around and you're like, that's my neighbor. That's my kid's Little League teammate. That's, no. And that is where I think Trump looks extreme and we look reasonable. But if we don't say we're not reopening the border, we're not cutting ICE funding, we're not going to we're going to keep after criminals, the public will say, if I have to choose the two extremes, I'd rather have too much than too little. And that's our problem.
Yeah, and one quick corollary to that. I mean, I haven't heard much highlighting from the left side either about our new legal immigration policy. I think the number is roughly 7,500 that we want to bring into the country legally, of which about 7,000 are going to be white South Africans specifically.
That's crazy.
It's just unbelievable to me.
Yeah. Stay tuned.
Thank you. And
thanks for that, Ryan.
Thanks for the
Okay, let me bring in Aaron.
Hey, Aaron.
We got Aaron
Hey,
and
guys.
Vince left, and Aaron and Vince, my long-winded friends, short and sweet.
Yes, as the resident time suck. No, I appreciate it. No, I really appreciate that you put the time in, with the audience and with this sort of new world of media. My question actually is more specific to how do you and Sean, and others that you work with, sort of discuss this new audience participation media landscape that you're working in? Because the traditional model now, which is either have like an interview podcast or just like a chaos hour. I mean, it seems like Sean and you really want that type of format. But how do you think about all of us, sort of collectively, and at the same time, so that you're not doing some, 2 hours of, kind of political therapy either, because that would be pretty exhausting, and your wife would probably look at you like you're really weird now. It's like, why are you doing this to all these people you don't really know?
Look, I think it's two things. I grew up listening to sports talk radio. WFAN was the first sports talk radio station in the country. I grew up listening to that, starting, as soon as I got out of school, Mike and the Mad Dog. So I've always understood talk radio a little bit in terms of people love it. People love, you learn from the fans, right? So in politics, you learn from the community. I know Mark has said this. What you heard on this platform in October of 24, and then when you saw the election, it completely was like, yep, we heard about young black men. We heard Latinos. We heard, women who said abortion's a big deal, but it's not my deciding vote. So I think there's huge value in just listening to people every day. What is on their minds? What topics are people calling in or raising their hands for? Huge, huge, huge value for us to learn what is on the minds of people. And it forces us to think and question our own assumptions and judgments. How do we think about it? We just knew that we wanted it. And thankfully, the technology to do it is not that expensive. And so it was just a question of how, but we knew we wanted to do it. And thank God Rachel agreed.
All right, last guy, Vincent Caprio.
Hey, Dan, thanks for being the sensible Democrat. And
thank you, sir.
Thank you. I'm 68 years young, and everyone
Good
knows
answer.
who I am. And I turned you on to a lot of my Democratic friends who are, as David Axelrod would say, white baby boomer, upper middle class know-it-alls.
Yep.
And every time I ever saw you on with Laura Ingraham, you're always smiling, and it reminded me. I started to smile when I was on podcasts with other people.
Yeah.
So I've had my, so I'm smiling all the time now too.
All right.
So
I like it.
In regard to the whole, I was told by my congressman in 1975, never a Democrat named James Howard. He said, Vinny, don't ever bring up the word Hitler. It doesn't do any good. So
sage advice.
Right. So every time you were ever on Newsmax or with Laura Ingraham on Fox, you never were a Democrat that started in on Hitler, fascism, Hitler, Mussolini, Stalin. When are regular mainstream Democrats going to stop using that all those terms? Can you advise some of them to stop doing that?
Yeah, it's funny. So I actually have had some people reach out to me, some candidates that I've sat down with, and it is one of the things that I have actually said. I understand their frustration. I just spent Thanksgiving with my family, many of whom use those terms all the time and get angry with me for not using them. I just think it sounds like first of all, I don't believe it's true. I don't believe Trump is a fascist. I don't believe that he is Hitler. Like I genuinely in my core do not believe those things. So you start with that premise, right? Like let's take a deep breath here and that's just not who he is. And I think people will not hear the next sentence if your base will hear it and they'll be excited, but you got to win moderate, independent voters. And I would say when Trump is doing a stunt at McDonald's or on the garbage truck or wearing a t-shirt about the basket of deplorables, it's a ha, but he's focused on the economy. He's focused on I'm with you. I'm working class. It's my policies that they're at. And when he does the kind of like outrageous stunts that where he's name calling and whatever, like it lands less well. I don't understand why our party cannot get that through their heads. Like it just, if I say that Donald Trump is Hitler, most people will just would just tune me out. Like whatever I say next is just like whatever. And so I wish we would stop focusing on him and focus more on the substance and finding a way to win people back. I know there are candidates who are thinking seriously about that. So
Thank
hopefully
you so
stay
much.
tuned. Yeah. Thank
Yeah,
you.
we could use better terminology when we point out
Oh my
our
God.
differences with our political candidates, right? It's really
Yes.
sad. So Dan, I just want to personally thank you for coming on. The community
Of
thanks you.
course.
You have our support, you and Sean both. And hopefully we can find a happy medium where we can watch you and the two-way and but I'll send you guys an email on my thoughts about that. And I'm
Yep.
sure everybody else can get in touch with you. But thanks. Look, Dan, you spent an hour and a half with us. I really appreciate it. So, and tell your wife thank you.
Yeah, and I'll just say thank you. Look, one of the when you asked me to come on, I was so it was a no brainer because I cannot thank all of you enough. I know I said it when I left two way, like I can't tell you I can't explain it properly. To see all of you pop up every morning, just like this, all of your Professor Kenny, your backdrops, all of you to see your chat conversations every day, it felt like a community. It really, really genuinely does. And so I have great respect for all of you. I enjoy talking to you guys, listening to you. So, I'll be selfish and say I hope you'll give, the huddle a chance and be a part of it. But I'm always happy to talk to you guys. And honestly, the last year, 14 months, I have loved every minute of being with you. And I can't wait to see boxes pop up again. It's a little weird to just see Sean and Rachel. Feels a little lonely. Thank you guys for the invitation and the opportunity.
Thanks, Dan. I'm
Okay.
gonna you
Thank
can
you,
you can
Dan.
roll out, Dan. I'm gonna speak to
Okay.
my brethren here because I was getting
See you
criticized, so
guys.
I got to
Enjoy
deal
the
with them.
day.
Thanks, Dan. Okay, so gonna finish the show because we have I think Megan McCain has Scott Reynolds on, so that might be
Scott
something that
Jennings.
people. What? Scott
Scott
Jennings. I mean,
Jennings.
what did I say? Scott Reynolds? No, Scott
Yes,
Jennings.
sir.
Jeez. So people might be interested in that. So just for those of you who were getting on me about letting certain people speak too long, I apologize. We didn't have a lot of hands raised in the beginning, so I was giving everybody leeway as best I could, and then the hands started popping up like crazy, and that's when I realized I had to step up the game. So did the best I could. I apologize if people were a little annoyed or whatever, but you can't make everybody happy. So I got you, Dan Turrentine. I hope you appreciate that, and I intend to get more people on. Like I said, I want to do a healthcare show with Dr. John. I'm going to get Daniel Jernigan from the CDC on. and maybe we can talk about that stuff. So on that note, Alan shows tonight at 7 now.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, 7 o'clock. So I'm just going to call it a day now. It's been a long morning, and it's going to be longer if Sean and Dan are doing 8 o'clock, then Mark's doing 9, and then we're doing 10. You're talking long mornings. Wow. So we'll see how that all plays out. And don't forget the holiday party coming up December 13th at Sweet Linda, Max Crespo's place in the Village. It's 29 2nd Avenue. On that note, I'm out of here. Hopefully, I'm actually on vacation in Florida right now, and Jackie's not with me, so I could probably sneak on to Alan's show tonight if I don't have other things to do. So maybe I'll see you guys tonight. All right, take it easy, folks. Thanks so much for coming on.
Bye.